Okay, we got this is the third class of basic systemology. It is the fourth 30-minute class session. And at this point in the class, in the course series, you really should have familiarity with the first 90 minutes of material before we continue on. So this is not, by the way, Fundamentals of Systemology is not the first introduction to systemology we've ever developed, but it is the first official basic course. It has more to study within it than what we're necessarily covering. I'm trying to highlight the key points in this book for moving forward in the course, getting into the actual techniques, processing methods, and also the actual pathway to ascension. This is the prerequisite knowledge to understanding what and how we are applying the methodology, the systematic processing methods that we've developed. So I'm adding one class session to this. I said we'd probably get into the actual techniques, processing techniques in the third class, and we're at the third class, and we are obviously still have a lot of material to cover. In the book, it suggests us to review various aspects of the standard model, which I introduced in the last class, and which I'm not going to spend too much time going over. However, on this sheet that we've established here, this shows you the standard model as has been described over the last few classes, and some of the key notes of it. Here you'll see some symbols which match the diagrams that are actually given within the Fundamentals of Systemology textbook. I'm presenting it a little bit differently here in live time to be able to demonstrate some of the various principles, of which it is sometimes a little more, it takes a little bit more just to get it from the book. So the book, combined with these actual lecture videos and the transcripts that'll go with them, really is the best introduction that we have. Other introductory materials you could get, The Power of Zoo is a lecture series that I gave in 2019. That complete series, in addition to the Academy lecture transcripts being available in book form, that complete series is actually available on YouTube if you want to listen to that. We also have the original thesis, which was established over a decade ago, and we have another edition that was actually a collected works, small collected works anthology called The Way into the Future, which introduced various concepts. That was edited for us by one of our members that compiled it based on various transcripts and the various editions and books that you could get. So if by the time we get into the actual processing methods, if you still feel that you need a greater understanding of the basics, refer again to that introductory material as a supplement, but primarily Fundamentals of Systemology, the textbook, should really cover everything you need to know to get you on your way. So let's make sure, though, brief review. We talked about the alpha spirit last time, no longer actually handling energy directly. While it's tied to these considerations of the human condition, it's using information gathered from sensors, receptors in the body, which is then being broadcast to the alpha spirit as what it's interacting with as reality. So let's see. If actualized, though, an actualized being, it does have the ability to knowingly use a body as a remote viewpoint from itself. The alpha spirit could very easily use and knowingly use another vessel within the game, just like a character in a game or a video game that you want to play. And again, knowingly, this isn't really something that we have a problem with. We've been actually doing that for previous universes, previous forms, and various things to represent beingness or interactions with other alpha spirits, also using kind of a playing piece. So that's not anything new. But in the case of the standard issue human condition, there's really no surface memory. There's no knowingness, no actual above the surface realization of our actually making these reality agreements. And therefore, without that knowingness, a being is unable to properly change it with like high power awareness, to actually change their level of agreements to experience a different reality or a different universe. This is the one most people that are experiencing the human condition compulsively and are unable to get a viewpoint into anywhere else. This is what's being manifested continuously, automatically. And so in order to actually change that, we have to identify the point in which these reality agreements were actually made. And this is something we progressively do along the pathway to ascension as we work through the various processing levels. So, on paper, we've really represented this, as basic as we can, using the zoo line, this continuum of awareness that it intersects various. Zoo is always one continuous. Awareness is strictly just this one stream of pure awareness, or what used to be labeled as consciousness or spiritual life energy. Just about all the mystical traditions, we've chosen the word zoo. Just about all the other mystical traditions, sciences, religions, spiritual methodologies and paradigms, they all have their own name for what they have as their paradigm, their vocabulary, their phenomenon. That's one of the reasons why I said this is sometimes this is the first time we're universally broadcasting a basic course, because in the past it's something I've really worked with people more on an individual basis, and to bring it to them at the level that they understand. A person that has a New Age background, I would often present and kind of incorporate the information to them on a preliminary basis, using what they already have as a background. A person that has no New Age background, in some of those various schools of thought and whatnot, I would present it differently. A perfect example of that, and this isn't to just plug this isn't part of our curriculum at the Academy, this is just another example of something that I actually wrote and published a couple years ago. It's available in hardcover and paperback. It's called The Metaphysics of Stranger Things. And if you're interested in Stranger Things, see, this is Stranger Things explained in the language of systemology. So there's various ways in which that could be communicated. When we're talking about these symbols, this kind of arrangement that we have here, this is simply the most systematic, universal way of presenting it. So let's see. There's really no point in going through anymore regarding the standard model as it stands. So long as a seeker at this point or a student at the Academy is able to understand what this is representing. It comes up sporadically as we move through the processing levels, and so you get a better understanding or a better or higher realization on what's taking place or what this is actually representing as we go along. So really, again, just to list them out, we've got our infinity, the alpha spirit, which is essentially the individual, the being, you as you actually are in your native state. Everything else is actually a compound or an additional bit of mass or energetic solidity. They're attached, and so that's what causes our awareness to decline. The alpha spirit has never actually changed its position as being an individual in its own personal universe. What it has done is, as being an individual with unlimited creative ability and the total command and control over its own universe, it has superimposed various other layers of reality agreements and experiences, and as we find out later on, various implanted layers of encoding information, actual programming that has basically entangled or contained it's what would be otherwise free units of awareness or spiritual ability, has actually entangled those, wrapped those up, fragmented that clarity of what would be otherwise just a almost godlike ability to manage and experience one's own universe. We still have that ability, but as we've discovered, more being set on automatic, it has hindered our free knowing capabilities. So from there, we have alpha thought and will and intention. These kind of upper level elements of the standard model we get into a little bit more in the pathway, and especially in the advanced training course, the upper levels, that they become most pertinent to handling. Mainly what we're treating in the first several levels of the pathway to ascension is what we've referred to as beta defragmentation, which treats lower levels. And here we talked about the MCC, or the Master Control Center, being combined with a reactive control center and composing a mind system, the range of associative thought within that mind system, below the reactive control center, the range of potential emotion, and then down closer to the 0 point, we have the actual effort that a being is applying or the encountering. We have the 0 point level of solidity or reality, physical bodies hitting against physical walls, physical balls coming out, dropped from a hand hitting a physical ground. This is our level of solidity as this physical universe. So this is something we're studying further in your textbooks and in reviewing the previous class lessons that we've had on the subject. The standard model takes an objective view of all potential positions of all potential universes. It is an illustration of spiritual descent, but it's also a map to chart the way back towards ascension. An additional work within this model resulted in the development of an alternative, more subjective view that we call the spheres of existence. So it's been suggested in our philosophy that the alpha spirit departed from their own original native state in order to basically create with other alpha spirits, or else to shift awareness from a personal home universe, so to speak, to a shared universe. Of course, the alpha spirit is still operating very much from a personal universe. And, in this case, the individual alters it to simultaneously share the realities of the other entities involved, and this is done by agreement. This is why in systemology, the word reality and agreement are essentially synonymous. So as an individual takes on more layers of agreements and fragmentation, the qualities and considerations of the personal universe, well, they continue to condense or collapse into lower and more solid levels, and that also means lower levels of knowingness and potential beingness. And this is an apparent result of this descending spiral. And this is what has led to the human condition. This is what we're seeking to correct at this juncture. So from the perspective of experiencing the human condition in beta existence, the solution to our ascension is essentially to free up the entanglement of our awareness and the considerations, to extend rather than retract our spiritual reach. And this means also to rehabilitate the native self-honest willingness to confront all potential existence as it is. And again, there's that term as it is, which has been coming up in our throughout our course here. So the Systemology Spheres of Existence chart, it allows us to systematically gauge the spiritual reach from the perspective of the alpha spirit. And in this case, it's we're going to look at it, the perspective of the alpha spirit operating as the genetic vehicle or the human condition on Earth in this universe, and demonstrating the game from that perspective. This same model could be used to represent not only any other species on the planet, using it from their perspective or their viewpoint, but a species on another planet within this universe, and so forth. So we'll go through and see how this works. At one, of course, at the center point here, we have self. So as opposed to our previous model, this marginally aligns with perhaps the standard model, but aside from the previous model that I was demonstrating where the alpha spirit is up at 7, and in this case we'll still demonstrate that the spirit operates at 7, but the perspective here comes from number 1 as self, and I guess the best way for me to do that, we'll just self. So we'll just run through the various spheres of existence. So around self, as the first sphere of existence, we have home. That would be anything concerning domestic situations, not only the house or the home, but also family, familial, spouses, children, so forth. Basically anything that is personal and surrounding the individual. Now, if we expand that sphere outwardly, we have groups. And so, at one we have, individuals being themselves and living in homes, perhaps having a family. And then groups could be any type of organization. That this could be a neighborhood, and outside of a neighborhood it could be the general community, the city, the county, the state that one lives in, anything that can be divided into a group. So individuals occupying homes, then in a domestic situation of survival, and then gathering into various groups. That includes careers, organizations such as where one works, if applicable, religion, so church organizations. And then when we extend this further, and call it species, because it could be all humans in this case, or if, for example, we were to apply this to an animal, for example, a particular animal or an individual animal, its home, its groups, its species. So in this case, we have the individual home that occupies an individual, perhaps several individuals within the same home. We have groups being composed of multiple domestic situations, which are composed of individuals. All possible human groups composing a sphere of which encompasses all humans. And so this is actually based on utilitarianism, which is a hundreds of year old form of ethic, moral philosophy, and the idea of encompassing, further encompassing reaches or the spheres of existence. And if we extend this further, we have it listed here. Extend this further, we have planet, which in this case would be Earth. And again, we could apply, depending on what perspective we're using, anywhere within, and this just begs the question here of a sixth, which is universe. So here, applying to any individual, the domestic survival situation that sustains that individual, the groups around which that individual's sustained home or domestic situation is able to be maintained, then all possible groups, which is of course all humans. Number 5 is all life on planet Earth in this case. So that would include not only all humans, but all of nature, all trees, all plant life, all animal life, and then of course universe, Earth being one planet in the universe. So we have the all-encompassing universe, and in many ways this does actually reflect the standard model, because when we extend this farther to 7 and 8, we've come up with spirits, and of course 8 always being infinity. So, all universes within all spiritual existence under infinity. So this is another method of essentially looking at your standard model and understanding how it applies on a more practical level, because this is, I said we weren't going to really get into processing, but we've really been talking about what we're going to process and how the human condition operates and everything. Everything we've talked about in the basic course is really pertinent to processing. In this kind of shortcut how-to society, civilization mindset, a lot of times we're looking for that quick fix or that magic word that's going to resolve it, and everything that we've been covering is actually pertinent to processing. So, an individual will actually establish within these spheres various inclinations, certain experiences and encoded imprints and so forth. We'll get into more about what fragmentation and imprinting and encoding actually is, concerns, but it affects one's reach. One is, again, when we're talking about ascension, we're talking about reaching our spiritual potential again, our full spiritual knowingness potential, operating as an alpha spirit. This requires our ability to handle and what we say confront. And confront, this is, sometimes an unusual word for, we use a lot in systemology. It doesn't necessarily mean what people think it means, because in our general use of the term today, confronting someone, it's generally got a negative connotation, that you're going to be aggressive towards them or so forth. What it really means is to stand in front of, or to actually face up to. And so what has happened is our ability to really manage and handle all of existence has become a lot more condensed, compacted, and confined. We've become a little bit more, of a shell crunched up, rather than expanding what our potentials are, what our capabilities are, our creative ability rather. And so this model is really, it's important, and it comes up, might as well just look in our textbooks here, because before I had given you some of the exercises given with the first course and class, and so the second exercise given, it's page 65 in your hardcover version of the textbook. If you're using the individual booklets, it would be at the end of lesson 2, the class, or the lesson rather, titled Spiritual Life in the Universe. So it says, on a blank sheet of paper, draw your own version of the spheres of existence, and begin with the smallest circle, label it self, proceed to draw the others, and label as many of the associations with it, that word associations that you have that might pertain to this. So for example, self might also include the body. We referred to home as a label here that of course could be family, it could be a specific relation, such as a mother, a father, the whole concept of sex, having children. These are all examples of that one. And again, we use general, what we refer to as terminals. We use general terminals in our systemology. So it's not, mother of necessarily this lifetime or a specific mother. We try to target the whole terminal of mother because they are all connected. And fragmentation in one part of any of these, for example, if home also reflects mother, and that is, for example, something that someone has a lot of turbulence, emotional turbulence wrapped up in, it could affect other areas of this zone. And of course, an unstable home life might also lead to inability to effectively handle one's participation in groups, other groups, which for groups could also be, well, we've listed those, communities, certain types of organizations. We've kind of run through these already in the lecture. But the important thing is to draw this out and kind of work it out for yourself, how many things apply. And, there's many different exercises suggested with this, looking to find examples, out in daily life, imagining things from the perspective of each one of the spheres, or if one of the spheres were to be missing, just something to think about. And then, again, the first exercise is one that we can introduce to kind of in lieu of getting into serious processing today. It says, while seated in a chair, get the sense of you making that body sit in a chair. You practice this until you have a reality on it, because we're not just sit in a chair and okay, I'm sitting in a chair. No, we want you to get the idea of actually doing what the body is doing. And so if you're holding the book, for example, then you get the sense of you making the body hold the book, and this kind of idea of living deliberately. It's a practice skill. We've gotten in the habit of doing so many things on automatic that, practicing, paying attention to what one is actually doing on a fully conscious level, it can take a bit of time to really get a handle on it. We're not used to doing this. This is as basic as all of these abilities and skills were once to our nature. We're no longer in the practice of doing them. We also really have no other avenues other than the systemology that we've pretty much had to develop over these last few decades to actually explore them directly or educate people on them, educate people on their own nature. For whatever reasons, this has been information that has either been safeguarded and hidden away, or its relevance and importance to today's world has apparently not been fully stressed.
The Joshua Free Imprint, JFI Publications, in conjunction with Mardukite Academy and the Systemology Society, present the single greatest breakthrough of the 21st century for all humanity, the perfection of a new standard systemology, a complete map for the way out from the bottom to the top, and your key to being an ascended master in this lifetime. Everything you need is contained in 3 progressive, self-guiding courses: the Fundamentals of Systemology Basic Course, the Pathway to Ascension Professional Course, and the Keys to the Kingdom Advanced Training Course. And each should be studied and applied in their intended sequence and order as displayed in this video. All 3 courses combined are available as 5 standard hardcover volumes, but also as 33 installments, since each single course lesson is also available individually as a pocket-sized manual. The Fundamentals of Systemology Basic Course includes Being More Than Human, Realities in Agreement, Windows to Experience, Ancient Systemology, A History of Systemology, and Systemology Processing. The Pathway to Ascension Professional Course, including processing levels 0 through 6, includes in Volume 1, Increasing Awareness, Thought and Emotion, Clear Communication, Handling Humanity, Free Your Spirit, Escaping Spirit Traps, Eliminating Barriers, and Conquest of Illusion. The Pathway to Ascension Volume 2 includes Confronting the Past, Lifting the Veils, Spiritual Implants, Games and Universes, Spiritual Energy, Spiritual Machinery, The Arcs of Infinity, and Alpha Thought. The Keys to the Kingdom AT Advanced Training Course for Processing Level 7 in Volume 1 includes The Secret of Universes, Games, Goals, and Purposes, The Jewel of Knowledge, Implanted Universes, and the supplementals Systemology Biofeedback and Systemology Procedures. The Keys to the Kingdom AT Advanced Training Course for Processing Level 8 in Volume 2 includes Entities and Fragments, Spiritual Perception, Mastering Ascension, Advancing Systemology, and the AT Supplement Systemology Piloting. All titles are available from your favorite bookseller. Explore new standard systemology today, and may you never be the same.